In the last video, we finished making the last 4 pieces of our puzzle cube parts. And in this video, we're going to put it together to make our puzzle assembly file. So what we can do is go to File, New, and then the one we're going to be using for standard, or for assembly, is the standard.iam. Okay. Don't use the weldment one. We're not welding, we're just building. So standard is the one you're going to want. So if you double click on it, then you will have your file in a second. Alright, so I'm going to make this one full screen. So what we can do is place in the files. You can place each of these in individually if you want. When I have a whole bunch already set up, I like to place them in kind of in a chunk. You don't have to, you can just keep grabbing them, but it's really up to you. And where you're going to find these files to grab everything is you're going to go to Place, and right underneath File, you're going to want the one with the cube with the blue arrow. So there's a couple different options. The one that we're going to be using is this one, the cube with the blue arrow. And I already have my files open, so it kind of knows what I'm going to be using. But if you don't have your files open, then you're just going to have to go to this drop-down menu, find wherever you placed your files, and grab them from there. So again, if you press on the top one, Shift, click on the bottom one, all of them are now highlighted, and then I can click Open. So I'm going to click once, and then right-click, and then OK. Or you can hit Escape on the keyboard. So you can see how I have now all of my pieces for our puzzle. So the first one that I'm going to work with, I guess, will be this one, because this is oriented the same way that I have it in my puzzle. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to ground it. So I'm going to right-click and ground it. So you can see this little thumbtack now in the little cube icon next to puzzle piece yellow. That means when I click on it, it's not going anywhere. But if I click on this one and move it, it can move anywhere it wants to. You can also tell, because this cursor, so it's your normal cursor, you move it over here, it has a little thumbtack reminding you that it's kind of stuck in place. It's pinned. The reason why we want to do that is because this cube, or this is now locked into this cube. So when I turn this around and everything, you can see how all the pieces are moving nicely. But this cube and this piece are linked now. So all these other pieces, you can see how this one, this J-shaped one, is not at the right angle. This little purple fish one, not at the right angle. The blue L, not at the right angle. But our green piece is actually the correct orientation. So to connect these together, what we're going to use is constraint. Some people like to use joint. If it works for you, that's fine. But personally, I would go with constraint. So with constraint, there's mate and there's flush. So the easiest way to think of these is mate is like gluing things together, and flush is lining them up. So if you think of it that way, that might help you remember which one's which. So what I'm going to do first is now mate this yellow piece. So if you accidentally click on the wrong surface, you can just go back to your previous selection with selections. So you need to select 2 things. So first selection, second selection. So it's kind of a way to backtrack if you accidentally click on the wrong one instead of canceling and then opening the constraint tool again. So I'm now going to rotate this and click on this edge. Alright, so you hear that little noise. That means the 2 are now connected together. So I'm going to click Apply. And I'm going to close out of this just so I can show you some things that are going to happen here. So this piece, it looks like it's free. Looks like it can do whatever it wants. But if we go from this angle, you can see it's really just moving up and down. If we go from the top, and it can move side to side. So it is constrained slightly, but from this angle it looks like it's moving wherever it wants to. So the next thing I'm going to do is now add flush. Alright, so I'm going to close out of that one again. So now it looks like it's just going up and down, and that's really all it's doing. But we want these two to be lined up about there. So I'm going to just shift that so you can see actually what happens. I'm going to use flush again. And apply. Can exit out just so you can see again. So when I click on it, that one doesn't move. Click on this one. Then we have this little symbol. Tells you it's not going anywhere. So you kind of wiggle the parts around to see if it comes apart. If it does, then you know you gotta constrain it more. But if it stays put, then you know you did it right. Alright, so the next piece, I guess I'll do this red piece. So some people like to take these pieces and rotate them before they attach them. Personally for me, I think it's an extra step that is not necessary. So what I'm going to do is use flush for this edge and this edge, and that will actually rotate it so now that J shape is in the correct position. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is use our mate tool to glue this surface to this surface. Alright, so you can see how this isn't quite lined up yet. So next thing we do is flush this one and this one. And apply. Next one I'm going to do is our fish. I'll add that one in because adding the blue one first and then trying to add this one in, a little tricky to see what you're doing. So just like I did before, I can rotate it while actually connecting it together. So I have my one surface selected, my other surface, apply. So now they are connected. And I gotta rotate this because if you look at it, it isn't lined up properly. So I need to have this surface and that surface flush. And now it's a little hard to see what you're selecting. So there's two ways I can do this. I can kind of tip this one and select the purple and then green or yellow. Or I can come in here and then, actually I'll do that one. The second way is I can click on here with the mate tool, turn it, and then click on this green section, and then apply. So those are now connected together. And then with this last one, let's see if we are rotating this, then we want to mate this surface to this one. Apply, and flush, and flush. And I'm just going to show you what happens kind of when you do this. So that doesn't wiggle around, but then when you do this, it kind of still moves. So we have that last one piece to do. Alright, so that one, I'm going to do flush for this one. Actually, yeah. But we could also do mate and then connect this surface with, if I can turn it, that surface. So for mate and flush, it really depends on where you're clicking for which one would be the best one for what you're doing. Alright, and then if we just rotate this, so we can see our top is exactly how it is in our sketch. And our middle, we can see these blocks, which are these ones right here. And then our bottom edge, we can see our bottom edge right there. So everything is all connected. So what I like to do just at the end, just to make sure everything's connected in place, I click on each color individually and kind of give my mouse just a little bit of wiggle. And then make sure everything is properly in place. In case you make a mistake and actually have to undo something, if you kind of, let's just say this piece was flipped the wrong way, I can go here and see we have the mate and flush. So we have 2 flushes and 1 mate. So to constrain all of these, you're going to end up with a combination of 3, could be 3 mates, 3 flushes, a combination of the 2. Doesn't really matter, but it'll be 3. It might be a few more depending on where the piece is. This was the last piece I put in, so that's why it definitely only had 3. So I'm going to now just delete this constraint, and you can see now that I can move the piece up and down. Okay. So now just going to add back in a constraint, so then it'll be put back in the correct spot. So for this one, I'll just do a flush, apply. So I changed what was a mate to a flush, just to show you how to delete these. But you can kind of see how You can see what piece is connected to. So the blue piece is connected to the red piece over there. Let's see, we have blue and purple, then blue and red again. Alright, so hopefully that helped you figure out how to put your puzzle together. So remember that your design over here is basically your map of how to put your puzzle together. Alright, so in the next video, I'm going to show you how to make a presentation view for this one, which is also known as an exploded view. And then remember, don't forget to save this and don't call it assembly 1. Maybe call it assembled puzzle cube or something like that. But assembly 1 is not a great file name.